everybody. My name is Mike King, and I'm honored to share some thoughts that I have with all of you on this book writing journey that you're on. As a criminologist who spent more than 40 years pursuing and analyzing criminals, I've focused on the complexities of human behavior, particularly the darker aspects of relationships, things like manipulation, coercion, and the psychological game that can turn love into something dangerous. So when I was approached by Janika about speaking to you, a group of fiction writers, I jumped at the opportunity. I believe that you as writers have an incredible ability to shape the way people think about relationships. The stories that we all consume influence what we recognize as red flags, what we excuse in the name of passion, and more importantly, what we understand about resilience, self-worth, and healing. That's why I love the idea of helping you craft characters who don't just survive toxic relationships, but they emerge as stronger people with deeper understandings of themselves and what real security can look like. I wish that I could be here with you in person, but I'm in Los Angeles filming for the History Channel's History Greatest Mysteries. This is my third season with them, and it's been an incredible experience exploring some of the most compelling historical cases out there. And the chance to work with actor Lawrence Fishburne is really cool. Now, in this presentation, I'll be driving into the realities of toxic relationships from a criminologist's perspective. We're going to talk about common manipulative dynamics, how these patterns show up in fiction, and most importantly, how you might write about characters who overcome these challenges, overcome them in ways that feel authentic, powerful, and emotionally satisfying. So thanks for the invitation to join. I hope that this session sparks inspiration as you craft stories that don't just entertain, but empower your readers. So let's get started on this. True crime and romance fans know the drill. I mean, they've probably seen it all. Love that starts off like a fairy tale and then spirals into psychological warfare. Whether it's a headline-worthy scandal or a best-selling novel-turned-blockbuster, the fascination with toxic relationships is undeniable. But here's the thing. As much as we love these gripping stories, there's a fine line between exposing the dark realities of manipulation and romanticizing abuse for entertainment. I think the victims of these storylines are often exploited, all in hopes of selling a tale. So let's talk about this, how you can walk this tightrope between storytelling and social responsibility. I want to kind of visit how you can craft compelling relationships without exploiting the very people who suffer from coercion, gaslighting, and emotional abuse in real life. And perhaps most importantly, how you can show characters overcoming these toxic love relationships and these characters finding something stronger, healthier, and ultimately more satisfying. Now, if you, like me, have ever been sucked into a book, a documentary, or a movie about a dangerous romance, you're not alone. Stories about manipulation, obsession, and power struggles tap into our deepest fears and desires. That bad boy who can't be tamed, the lover who keeps us guessing, or the couple who fights like heck, and still they can't leave each other. These are stories that have fueled pages in a book for centuries. You know, there's something kind of undeniably compelling about watching a character fight their way out of an unhealthy relationship, or in some cases, spiral even further into destruction. But here's where things can get murky. When toxic relationships are framed as thrilling, passionate, or enviable, they stop being tales that are there to teach, and they start becoming fantasies. And those fantasies for the recipient of the abuse become horrors. This is where writers like you, whether they're crafting romance novels, psychological thrillers, or crime dramas, need to be careful. The justice scale tips dangerously when stories exploit the reality of abusive relationships without some accountability. It's one thing to depict a dynamic that is toxic for dramatic effect, I guess. But it's another thing to glorify manipulation as the ultimate love story. Writers often lean on certain toxic dynamics to build tension and drama. And I wanted to just touch on what I think are some of the most common that they use. Number one is this idea of the narcissist and the empath. This dynamic is a classic. One character is self-absorbed, charming, controlling, while the other is overly giving, eager to please and willing to endure mistreatment, all in the name of love. Think of the stories where one partner is gaslighting the other into questioning their own reality, creating a dangerous power imbalance. While these relationships exist in real life, the fantasy version often skips over the long-term psychological damage that they cause. So think about this dynamic as you write, and ask yourself the question, am I further victimizing or am I serving as an agent of change? The next area is this codependent couple storyline. Have you ever read the story where one character completely loses their identity all for love? This is codependence at its core. These relationships can feel deep and all-consuming, but when one person can't function without the other, things get dark really fast. The most powerful stories in this category are the ones that show characters growing into their own person, rather than remaining trapped in unhealthy dependence on the other. Now, the next area is this idea of the on-again, off-again cycle, this roller coaster relationship that's full of breakups, makeups, and endless drama that keep the reader hooked. But in reality, these emotional highs and lows are a sign of deep dysfunction. In the criminal world, it's called domestic violence, and it's against the law. And if a writer chooses to explore this line of thinking, there's got to be value in why stability, communication, and self-worth matter more than the adrenaline rush of toxic love. The gaslighter and the confused partner is the next area that I want to talk about, because gaslighting is psychological warfare. When a character constantly twists reality to make their partner doubt their own memory or their sanity, it's terrifying. Writers who take on this dynamic have a chance to do something really powerful. They can show the slow erosion of self-trust and the difficult but rewarding journey toward reclaiming one's sense of reality. My counsel is to take the high road, even if it's much more difficult to write it out. Number 5 is this idea of taming the bad boy or the bad girl. This one might be the most dangerous of them all. The idea that love can fix an emotionally unavailable, dangerous, and abusive partner is everywhere in fiction. But let's be real, folks. Narcissists don't change because of love alone. If a character transforms, it should be because they are actively choosing to do that, to work on it, to make it happen, not because their partner endures endless suffering just in order to save them. And here's where we come back to this scale of justice. When we write about toxic relationships, it isn't inherently wrong. I mean, after all, life is pretty dang messy. But there's responsibility that comes with storytelling, especially when the subject matter involves coercion, manipulation, or emotional abuse. You see, the problem arises when toxic relationships are framed as desirable, with no consequence or growth. When stories present abusive behaviors as romantic, they reinforce harmful ideas, particularly for readers who might already be struggling to recognize the red flags in their own life and in their own relationships. Now, according to the experts in personality analysis, the kind of people who are reading romance novels often exhibit traits that are very similar in nature. Things like being highly empathetic, emotionally sensitive, optimistic, people who desire strong emotional connections. They like these romance novels because the novel satisfies a deep need for emotional connections. They have an optimistic outlook, hoping that your story is going to somehow have a positive ending and a hopeful theme. And most importantly, these readers generally are connecting with the characters' emotions and struggles in the book. So be careful in your writing. But there is good news. You as the writer have the power to flip the script. You can use these stories to highlight the importance of things like self-worth, boundaries, and personal growth. You can write characters in who don't just survive the toxic love, but they learn from it and they find something healthier on the other side. Now, if this inspires you in any way to create stories that resonate without further victimizing real people, here are a couple of things to consider. Red flags, I think. Make it clear when a relationship's unhealthy, even if the character doesn't see it right away. Let the reader recognize the warning signs. Show character growth in the people in the story. The best stories aren't just about the romance, but they're about a personal evolution. A character who's trapped in manipulative relationships should have an arc that leads them towards self-awareness, growth, and strength. Write your story toward a realistic healing point. Nobody wakes up one day magically cured from years of manipulation. The healing process is messy at best, non-linear and painful, quite frankly, but ultimately, it's worth it. When you're writing, offer a vision of healthy love. Your writing should be about making every story a fairy tale. Readers deserve to learn and see that relationships that are built on trust, respect, and communication work. At the end of the day, storytelling is incredibly powerful. The books that we read or the movies we watch shape the way we think about relationships, what we think about things that we accept or idealize, and what we recognize as harmful. As writers, we have a chance to push for narratives that don't just entertain, but they empower the reader. So next time you dive into a story about love gone wrong, ask yourself, is this a tale about exposing the truth of toxic relationships? Or is it dressing up all this ugliness as romance? Because in the end, the most gripping stories aren't the ones that glorify manipulation. They're the ones that show us how to break free of it. So thanks for taking time to explore this topic with me. Toxic relationships, manipulation, and coercion are not just compelling elements of storytelling. They are real experiences that real people experience. They impact countless lives. As writers, we have the power to shape narratives that don't just highlight these dynamics, but offer something even more valuable. Stories of resilience, self-awareness, and healing. By carefully crafting characters who overcome these toxic relationships and find strength, you actually contribute to a culture shift, one that encourages self-worth, boundary setting, and emotional security. Your work has the potential to educate and to inspire, even to help readers recognize red flags in their own lives. That's an incredibly powerful gift, and I applaud you for taking on that responsibility with true intention and care. Now, if you're interested in diving deeper into the psychology behind criminal behavior, please check out my YouTube channel. It's called Profiling Evil. I think you'd like my playlist that's titled The Academy. This thing is packed with videos that'll help you develop richer, more nuanced crime and thriller narratives. Inside that little playlist in the Profiling Evil Academy, I explore topics like the victim selection process or organized and disorganized crime scenes, and so much more. You know, these insights can be incredibly helpful to you when building your storylines. I think they'll make them more compelling. You can also visit my website at profilingevil.com for additional content and resources. And make sure while you're there, you pick up one of my books. I'll ship it to you for free. Well, thank you for allowing me to be part of this conversation. And to Janika, a special thanks for your continued pursuit of excellence in the art of book writing. Your dedication to supporting authors and pushing for richer, more authentic storytelling is truly commendable. Best wishes to all of you in your individual journeys of writing books. Keep crafting stories that don't just entertain, but truly make a difference. Hey, we'll see you all soon at the next crime scene.